Welcome back to the channel. Sorry about the late one today. It's been a busy day with work, so I had a lot to do, and now we're finally ready to do some TA. And honestly, we are just 30 minutes away from closing the daily. So basically, this is going to be an interesting time to do this video because not only is Ethereum breaking out within the last 30 minutes, it's breaking out as we speak. It's sitting at 2,140. But we've seen a lot of movement in EGLD as well, and Bitcoin is still hovering around 59,000, but there are some interesting formations happening with Bitcoin. So we're going to start off on Bitcoin and take a look there. The first thing, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and check out the description. There's a link to Jebb's Technical Analysis Academy. That is something you want to check out if you're interested in technical analysis and like the chart analysis that I do. It's a good place for you to learn a lot of this stuff where it's, kind of all laid out for you. So I would take a look at that. There's a few courses that are free on there, like the TradingView one. That'll teach you how to use TradingView really, really well. It's like a sample so you can see how it goes. And there's also my Twitch, my Twitter, all that. So check it all out. It's on the description. And make sure you also like and subscribe. Let's go with Bitcoin. All right, so we start off with Bitcoin, and obviously this has been a very, very interesting week. Okay, so Bitcoin has pretty much been moving in the same channel that we've been watching for a while now. Now, we've literally been watching this channel through the entire time it's been within the channel. And what we have noticed here is that our dips below it have been fairly less frequent now. We've spent a lot more time trading inside this channel than outside of it. So you can see a couple of areas, right? We went outside of it briefly here to the upside. Here, we didn't even fall below the channel. And here we fell below just very briefly, and then we came back up. And we've been trading in the center of this channel now, and it's been very good sideways with an upward motion type trading, right? Sideways in the sense that it's been following the path of this channel, which completely validates the channel. Even the baseline has been validated because we've hit it numerous times. You can see we hit it much earlier in the 30,000s. We hit it here at around 42 to 45,000. And now we have just come back from hitting it one more time in the 50s. So that means that this channel over time is showing us its accuracy. It's showing us that seeing price appreciation in this channel is very, very likely. And now we've reached a point where it's basically putting in a very interesting pattern. So I want to go back a little bit on the Bitcoin chart to something that we were following a few weeks ago. So this was towards the end of February and early March. Okay, if you don't remember this pattern, I'm going to show it to you. So basically, I'm going to turn off the moving averages, and I'm going to go back to my list of patterns here, and I'm going to turn it on. Okay, so this is what we were looking at for a while. This is called an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, with this inverse head and shoulders pattern, we had made a price prediction that it was going to break out of this and go up to 60K. That is exactly what happened. It broke out of this consolidation pattern here, and the price went up to 60K. Now, we are seeing a very similar pattern forming. It is not confirmed because it needs more time to confirm it, just like this inverse head and shoulders was not confirmed. When we were watching this, I started talking about this inverse head and shoulders when we were like in this area here, right? Around there is when I started talking about it, and it did come back and complete the pattern. We had our neckline and we had our price prediction, and it worked out really well. So now I want to show you what the chart is looking like now. Okay, we move over to the right, and I'm seeing something very similar start to happen. I'm starting to see here that we have a left shoulder. There we have the head. Now we've come back up. So basically now, if the price goes down and drops below the red line again and then comes up, that will be another inverse head and shoulders pattern. And if we draw a trend line at the top of this inverse head and shoulders pattern, this creates our neckline. So if we create a neckline right about there, okay, that can give us a method of, getting a price target. So let's try to get a price target from this and see what that price target would look like. We basically would draw a line from the neckline down to the base of the head. Okay, so it's like right about there. This is a little bit conservative. I'm not going to go all the way to the top because I could potentially take the neckline up here to the top of this area because of this right there. But I'm not doing that because I want to be slightly conservative with it. So let's assume that this line gives us our breakout target, and we put it somewhere around here where we expect that anywhere in this area is where this could complete. Basically, what this is telling us is that if this inverse head and shoulders pattern plays out, and this would likely play out within the next 3 to 4 days or less, then we're looking at a price target of almost exactly 70,000. Okay? You see here, if we go to the right, the price is basically at 70K. At the tip of that line, it's 69,800. So, I mean, we don't have this confirmed yet, and there's a very good chance that it could just break out even before this pattern completes itself. But it is a good reason to watch this pattern to see if it does complete. Right now, it's funny. A lot of people would be waiting for Bitcoin to pump here. Everyone wants to see Bitcoin go past 65, 70K. I want to see that too, but I would be a lot more confident in that move if I saw this final dip. If I saw that it did come down, touch the red line again. It basically just needs to touch the red line. If it goes a little bit below the red line, that's good. So pretty much if the price drops to about 55,000, that would complete the inverse head and shoulders pattern, as long as it starts moving up from there and then goes back to around 60, 61, which is where it had the previous all-time high. If we see this play out, then be ready, because I think we are going to see something very similar to what we saw last time. It will probably be a week-long run where the price moves up and starts hitting towards 70K. Now, it may not happen. We could see a drop here. It's another possibility, but I just feel like that's unlikely right now because we are looking very bullish overall. There's really nothing that is bearish at the moment as far as news goes or even the traditional financial markets go. I mean, I can't really think of what news could come out right now that would affect the markets and turn everyone around to start selling. So I wouldn't anticipate that right now. I anticipate that we may actually see more people coming in. We've already seen the effect that the USDC use of, or Visa planning to use USDC has done to the Crypto.com's coin, CRO. We've seen what it's done to Ethereum. And honestly, I haven't seen the impact of that for Bitcoin yet. And that's another good reason to believe that Bitcoin is slightly delayed right now. The volume hasn't come back in, but it will. And when it does, I have a feeling that we might be saying goodbye to 50,000 or to the 50,000 range. I think we might be breaking out of 60K, and we may not be going back below it for some time. I mean, we could consolidate below it again after we go up to 70,000 and then have a big consolidation back to 60 or 59, 58. But we can't predict that yet. There's not enough information to tell us that. It looks like my cat is paying us a visit. Say hello. All right, Jazzy, come on. You can't do TA. All right, so you can't really predict that it's going to go up to 70 and then how far the drop will be. I mean, it's going to consolidate again at some point when it moves up. But right now, what I'm seeing is a much more likely scenario for it to dip below the red line and then shoot up. Makes sense, especially because this entire movement upwards from about 50,900 when it dipped down to there all the way up to where it is now at around 59,000, we haven't seen any major price swings here. I mean, you really haven't seen a ton of profit taking. You know, you saw more profit taking here, like in this drop. You saw some here in this drop, in this drop. So after this run up, we saw a good amount of profit taking. We have not seen any profit taking after this run. So seeing this run lead to a dip here would make sense, and it would also complete the head and shoulders pattern that we're looking at. So later on, I'll actually draw a better head and shoulders pattern in here, and my chart is shared. You can look at my Bitcoin chart in the description of this channel. You'll find it at the bottom. It'll take you to my TradingView, and you can see all the lines and stuff that I put on here. So after this video, by the time this video is uploaded, I'll have a better head and shoulders pattern drawn on here so we can watch and see if it gets filled. Okay, so that's one of the major things I'm seeing with Bitcoin right now. As far as volume goes, there's nothing major to talk about. I mean, volume has somewhat been tapering, but it's also come back slightly. It still hasn't blown up like in the big pumps or the big dumps. So that tells me that we are getting to a point where a big pump is going to come. The question is going to be, is that pump going to happen after a dip back to around 55,000? Or is that pump going to happen without a dip even happening? Is it just going to go sideways a bit and not even do an inverse head and shoulders and just go up? But right now I'm thinking that upwards is likely where the price will move. If it moves down, though, there should be some reason for that. And right now, I'm not seeing the reason. So if you're seeing the reason and I'm not, let me know on Twitter or put it in the comments and let us know, because maybe I'm missing something, but it's just not looking bearish to me at all at the moment. We even have the moving averages here. All the moving averages are looking good. If you look at the moving average right here, the red one, this is the 200 exponential moving average, and the 200 EMA is sitting right now at around 54,600, which is right where we need it to drop in order to move back up and fill out that pattern of the inverse head and shoulders. So keep that in mind. Very interesting stuff. Bitcoin's looking good. I'm going to move on to Ethereum. All right, so we're going to do Ethereum, and then after that, I'm going to show you a news article that's relevant to both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then we'll move on with EGLD and Cardano. All right, so with Ethereum, I mean, take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum is doing really, really great. And if you remember in the last TA video, I believe the price was somewhere in the 1700 range. It was like right around here. And what we were talking about at that time were two options, right? Option number one is that the price went above this trend line in the center, that dashed line, and then came back down and touched it and continued moving. That was option number one. Option number two is that we moved toward the trend line, got rejected and moved down. And then I guess the other option always remains that it just, steadily moved up. Now, basically, we've done a combination of options 1 and 3, right? We've moved and broken that trend line, and we almost came back and touched it with this candle here. We didn't get all the way back, but we did almost come back and touch it, and it is looking like somewhat of a parabolic move here if you look at the moving averages. The 20 exponential moving average in particular is going quite parabolic on this 4-hour, and it's seeing massive price appreciation. So on our last video, I believe it was on this date, on the 29th. So if we look at the price from the 29th to where it is now, so let's just go to around 1765, but we were somewhere around there during the last video. The price has moved up for Ethereum about 20%, 21%. That's a pretty big move in a couple of days, and it was long overdue, especially because of what happened with Visa and USDC. That's why during that video, I told you guys that news that Visa is adopting USDC to settle like fiat transactions, basically. Instead of using fiat, they're using USDC. That's huge for Ethereum. That's big news for Ethereum. And Ethereum, the blockchain, the price of the asset did not react to that news with enough force. We saw a move up with that news from 1500 up to 1750, and that's a decent move, but the news was way more bullish than that move. So that's why I was able to tell you that the price is going to go up, likely breaking 2000, and it did break 2000, and now we are in a unique spot because we have broken out. We're literally in the middle of a breakout for Ethereum as we speak, and what's happening here is it's moving so parabolically that we don't know when it's going to sell off right now. And there's a lot of people that probably don't want to sell their Ethereum right now because it's gone through a lot of consolidation. So there's been a lot of selling going on for Ethereum. People have gotten out of the asset and new people have come in. And the new people that came in, if they bought around 1800, well, even if they got lucky and bought the dip at 1500, they're probably going to want to wait for the price to go up to at least 22, 23, maybe even 2500 until they start selling. So I'm assuming here that this breakout could be a bit higher than where it is now. I mean, honestly, I can't give you a target because if we look at this price chart, what's really happening here is that it's hitting a blue sky breakout. There's no volume on the right-hand side for me to look at to tell you, okay, this is a line of resistance. The only way we can find lines of resistance now is by creating a new Fibonacci retracement. So we can create a Fibonacci retracement for this, and we can take a look and see if it gives us any clue as to what might happen. So let's do that, and we're not going to get rid of this existing one. We're just going to hide it. So what we'll do now is we'll create a brand new fib, and actually what I'll do is I'll just make a copy of the existing one and move that. Okay, let's unlock it. We're going to move this fib and we're going to hide the one behind it. Okay, so now with the new fib, what I want to do is I want to change the starting and end points. I'm going to change the start to the first candle where this breakout started to begin. Okay, so let me move down so you can see that. I'm basically starting it at the base of this candle. I like to kind of start it where not the candle wick is, but where the actual candle closed. So we have the candle there, okay, or where the candle body is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my trend line, and I'm actually going to take this up to a level where it starts to make a little sense. So let's take this up to around 2,500 for now. We'll make that our top. Okay, now if we're looking at the chart like this, we don't really know how accurate this is yet. This is pure speculation, 100% speculation. Just assuming that we are looking at 2,500 being a potential top, because 2,500 is a nice round number and people like to sell at those numbers. They like to put in their sell orders at, you know, at intervals of 100 or 50. Usually intervals of 100 get more sell orders than intervals of 50 for bigger assets. So basically here, if we look at this, we can tell a couple of things. Number one is that at this line, the 618, we definitely saw that it traded sideways on this line a little bit. We hit slight resistance, we flipped it into support because a candle went below it, and then we broke out and went past the 0.5. And right now with the current candle, we're hitting resistance here, which is the .382 line. So if I was to pick a few targets for this, pure guesses, pure speculation, because we're in a blue sky breakout, this is a very difficult area to pick actual targets. My speculative targets here would be that we continue to hit slight resistance here at 2150. Now with this 2150 target, if we break through it, then I think we're going to be looking for resistance at 2200. It'll probably be a slower move up. If we break through this, it'll probably be something like that, and likely a retest of 2150. That's one option. The other option is rejection here at the 382 at 2150, where we just hit. If we get rejected there and we see the price come back down, then I'm going to expect to see some support here at 2030. Now, these are very conservative scenarios. Those are the two conservative scenarios. The more bullish scenario is that we see kind of like what we saw here, right? And we saw this numerous times. We saw a sell candle, a buy candle, and these are 4-hour candles, every single one of them. So if we look at it this way, what we could see is price kind of stagnating where it is now, us moving into the next 4-hour candle, and that candle looking like this, you know, and closing maybe here. So basically that candle would look very similar to this red one in the middle. And then after that, we could have another smaller candle followed by a much bigger candle. And then we could break past like 2,300. It's not out of the question for Ethereum. Now, the only reason I think that even this is a little too bullish is because of the fact that the RSI on Ethereum on the 4-hour is very, very high. Now, it is not completely overextended. You can see here on the left-hand side of my screen, there's an area where the RSI went super high. So let's take a look at that. We'll go back down. And you'll see this is basically where we had this massive rise for Ethereum when the price went from about 750 all the way up to around 1,200. It got or actually not even to 1,200, but it went from 750 to about, 1,160. So this jump here, okay, put in this area on the RSI. Now, when that happened, the RSI was over 86. It was like at about 90. That's where the RSI hit. Now, the other thing to notice is that the RSI where we are right now is sitting at around 85. It's not even at 85. It's like at 83. It's not quite as high as that, but it's high. You know, it's starting to get in that overbought territory. So if the RSI keeps rising, I'm going to expect it to hit resistance at around 90. That means that the price going up to even 2,200 should show resistance. We should see some there. And at that point, it would be very healthy for us to have a dip back below 2,150 or even 2,100 so we can start bringing this RSI back down a little bit. We don't want it to get super overextended. Now, that's a more conservative and likely scenario, so that's what I think is going to happen. I think we're more than likely going to see resistance at the 2,200 level and then a dip back to 2,150 and possibly slightly lower, followed by some sideways trading. And then we're really going to have to watch the volume profile on the right-hand side to see, is a lot of volume being, is there a lot of volume being put in at those levels? And the next thing we're going to have to look at is, are these Fibonacci lines actually staying accurate? And if they are staying accurate, then we'll know that, okay, our next big area of resistance is going to be at around 2280 to 2300. Basically almost every 100, but even every 50. I mean, I know they're pretty simple targets. You can kind of figure this out on your own, but looking at it on the fib gives you a little bit more confidence, because you can see already that these levels have been playing out even with a very rudimentary fib retracement. So keep an eye on those. I would keep an eye on your own fib retracement. If you want to create one, go to TradingView, set up your chart and do that, and just watch the price right now. Right now is the time to be. See, the time to buy your Ethereum was here, okay? When we were looking at the price, when it was at around 1,400, that was the time to buy. The next time to buy was here at 1,500. And honestly, this entire area was a good time to buy, 17 to 1,800. And we were watching it here, and I told you that all these dips, I usually buy most of them for the assets that I watch. And there's a reason for that. It's because if you're seeing what's happening with cryptocurrency, these type of moves shouldn't surprise you at this point. If you're new to the space, they may surprise you, and you also have to be ready to deal. For anyone who's new to the space, the biggest thing that you can do is learn to deal with the volatility. That's the biggest thing you can do. Getting scared out of the volatility is not right, but sometimes fear lets you make the right decision. So if you are getting scared, do your homework, learn about it. It means you don't know enough. It means that your fear of price dropping is making you question everything else. The reason you're questioning it is because you haven't learned enough about the assets and why they're valuable. So do that, you know? If you're in a bunch of assets that are just speculative, you may not be able to do that if you're just, gambling, but at that point, it's luck of the draw. In this case, I feel confident in Ethereum. I feel like it has more room to move. I honestly think that it's even undervalued at this price, oddly enough. But I do think that the price of Ethereum and its value are going to rise significantly when the gas fee issue is fixed. And I don't exactly know when that's going to be. But when that does happen, I think that we're going to be well over 2,500 to 3,000. Ethereum has a lot of room to move. So we'll keep an eye on it. Let's go ahead and take a look at a quick news article, and then we're going to move on to EGLD. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is this article about Mark Cuban. All right, there's only a couple areas we're going to look at. So Mark Cuban says his cryptocurrency portfolio is 60% Bitcoin, 30% Ethereum, and the rest dedicated to smaller cap cryptos. Okay, so basically what that means is that the majority of his portfolio is in Bitcoin, which makes sense. 30% in Ethereum also makes sense. And he does leave 10% for smaller cap cryptos. Smaller cap cryptos are altcoins, okay? Basically, any other altcoin is what it's referred to. Technically, Ethereum is also an altcoin, but people have kind of stopped referring to it as an altcoin, but it is an altcoin. So pretty much here, you're seeing one of the wealthiest businessmen in the country, in the United States, telling us his distribution of his crypto portfolio. Now, you and me, as normal human beings who can't, for the most part, a lot of us don't have financial advisors and things like that. And if you don't, then you may be looking to figure out what is a good distribution for your portfolio. This is a pretty good distribution. I mean, personally, I think a higher percentage should be in Bitcoin always, so I think he's got that right. 30% in Ethereum, I think, is good, but he also has a very strong belief in Ethereum, and he also has a lot more money to invest. He has a lot more liquidity, so he can put in a lot more money. So anyways, I think it's interesting to look at, and I think it's decent risk management to do it the way he's done it, so you should be aware of it. The next thing is a section down here. It says, Mark Cuban looks at Ethereum as being a currency in contrast to Bitcoin. In 2012, people said Bitcoin is a currency, and I'm like, it's not just going to work. But the entire time, I said it was a store of value, where if you could get people to believe that it was a better alternative than gold because of its algorithmic scarcity, the price is going to go up. Now, what is he saying here? All right, basically he is saying that it makes sense that Bitcoin can be a suitable alternative to gold because of its algorithmic scarcity. The thing that gives gold its value, there's really two things that give gold its value. It's scarcity, the fact that there's a limited supply of gold, even though we don't know what the total supply is. I mean, who knows if the mining companies that mine gold are lying about their gold deposits? There's no way for us to know, but it is scarce. Okay, so that's why it has value. And then also it has industrial uses. People use gold for electronics, jewelry, all these other uses. But the majority of gold's value does not come from industrial use. It comes from its use as a store of value over thousands of years. Now we have something like Bitcoin that not only has that algorithmic scarcity, but is much easier to use than gold. It's easier to store. You don't have to pay to have someone else store it for you. You know, you can literally, if you were a billionaire, you could buy $100 million worth of Bitcoin, transfer it to your cold wallet, and hold it in your pocket, right? You could do that. You can't do that with $100 million worth of gold. It's going to have to be sitting in some warehouse, and you're going to have to be paying a heck of a fee to someone to do that. And if you ever want to move it, it's going to cost you a lot of money to move it. You don't have those issues with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is far more secure because of that, because you don't need to hire a team of people to make sure your gold gets safely from one location to another, or to make sure your Bitcoin gets safely from one location to another. So there's a lot of benefits. Now, that's why he thinks Bitcoin, he's saying that he understands that it could be a better alternative to gold, okay? But why is he saying that Ethereum might be a better currency to Bitcoin? Well, it actually makes sense what he's saying, is because if people adopt Bitcoin as a reserve currency, much like gold, then there'll be a point where people don't want to use their Bitcoin. You're not going to want to use it for transactions because you're going to want to hold it. It's going to be like gold. You don't take a gold bar and go use it to buy coffee, right? You're not shaving off a little bit of gold and buying coffee with it. So it's a possibility that if Bitcoin really gets into the minds of everyone in the world as that type of asset class, which is kind of what it's designed to be, then there's a high chance that people won't want to use it as a currency. They'll want to use it as a store of value. Ethereum, on the other hand, is going to be housing DeFi, which is essentially what central banks do. And what else do central banks do? They print money. They create fiat currency, and their currency is used within the lending services of the central banks. So it would also make sense that Ethereum, the token, which is created by the Ethereum network and used in the blockchain for transaction fees, would be more of a currency because it's being used for these financial services. So it makes sense what he's saying. I understand the logic behind it, but I wanted you to see that here so you can kind of understand how a lot of people in the market might be thinking of Ethereum and why Ethereum's value could be going up and why Bitcoin's value could also be going up and becoming more stable as it gets higher in price. So something interesting to think of, and you got to keep in mind when there's articles like this and someone like Mark Cuban is saying these words and they're getting distributed on Bitcoin.com or Cointelegraph or wherever, there's a lot of people reading this and it's going to be influencing their thought as well. And reading this should be a red flag for everyone who doesn't own Ethereum to at least own a little bit of Ethereum. Okay, so that's one thing that I wanted to show you. We're going to move on to EGLD. All right, EGLD now. EGLD is up about 11% right now. And keep in mind, you guys, we are 2 minutes and 35 seconds away from closing the daily candle. So because we're recording this video live on Twitch, to everyone who's watching on Twitch, I'm keeping an eye on that. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to come back and look at Bitcoin. We're going to look at Ethereum again. We're going to see where these close. But let's go ahead and get back to EGLD. EGLD has been very interesting, okay? We're seeing 11% up now, and in reality, the entire price movement from this consolidation triangle that we were in has really been quite high. You know, it's gone up from the low here to about a 30% move up. All right, and right now it's sitting at about a 26% move up in totality. That is since April the 1st, which is yesterday. This is really good. I mean, it's kind of what we discussed, that we were expecting a move to happen at some point here, but we are still in a little bit of an interesting phase. Now, the reason is that, I mean, the price has actually moved up high enough that I'm not too worried at this point for us to come back into the 130 range. It's still a possibility, but I'm not too worried about it. I told you that once this red line, which is the 200 EMA, once that 200 exponential moving average starts moving out of this consolidation triangle, it's a pretty good sign that we may not be coming back to these prices again. And that's why I said that when I was stacking up more EGLD, I was doing it at 120, 115, 100. Those are all dips that I was buying and I was telling you about. I'm not going to tell you to buy. I'm not a financial advisor, so I never do that. but I can give you ideas on when I'm doing it, just so you know what kind of levels, when I do this chart analysis, what kind of levels am I looking at to put in some buy orders if I want to buy dips. And that's where I was doing it. So right now, if I was looking to buy a dip for EGLD, ironically, I would probably be putting in that price at somewhere around 135, maybe even 140 would be a buy target now. Because where the price is now at around 167, the price has to drop pretty significantly to even get back there. I mean, we're looking at a 17 to 20% drop just to come back to this triangle. So that's quite a significant drop, and I don't see that happening very quickly if it does happen at all. Now, keep in mind too, with this move, we have gone over the previous pattern of putting in lower highs. So this entire time, we've been having this consolidation since March. We've been putting in lower highs the entire time. You can see here, we had our major high. All right, then we had a few lower highs here. We had a lower high here. We had a lower high here. We had a higher high and a higher high, but then when you go back to the overall triangle, lower highs, another higher high, and then we drop back down for a final dip at 70% of the apex, and we have broken out. So this is very, very telling. The fact that our major highs here were all lower highs, and then we have broken out of it. It's telling that this consolidation may be over. And if this consolidation is over, it makes a lot of sense. EGLD staking is live. I've noticed, since I've been watching it pretty closely for the last week, I've noticed that the staking numbers have been going up. You know, it had dropped down to about 50%. Total supply was staked for a while. It went up to 55 again. Now it's sitting at around 57%. And the stake pools are filling up pretty quickly. So a lot of people are buying and staking EGLD or staking their existing EGLD. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that were using the Maiar app that had their EGLD on there. And as soon as it enabled staking, they started staking. So that could account for some of that percentage. But I definitely think that people are going to start buying and staking EGLD. You're going to get great returns, and honestly, the economics behind it and the infrastructure behind it are pretty good. Now, like every other altcoin, like I spoke about earlier, altcoins are all gambles because you are dependent on the team to execute their development plan and to execute their partnerships and features properly. They have to do it properly. With Bitcoin works fine the way it is, right? You don't need to change anything. You don't have to do any development. You just leave it the way it is and it'll keep working. That's why you don't really have to worry about that kind of thing as much with Bitcoin. But with EGLD, with Ethereum, these projects, you have to worry about that a bit more. And so far, I've been very happy with the work that the Elrond team has been doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing them implement a lot of what they are planning to implement. As they continue moving forward and these features start going live in the Elrond blockchain, I think this is just the beginning. This looks like it's just the beginning, but keep an eye on it for right now. Right now, it's still shaky. If we see a dip because of this big move, the dip could come back down to like around 150 and touch this blue moving average. If this is a true longer term breakout, if it's going to keep moving in an upward direction, we are going to want to see support on this blue line, and we are not going to want to fall below the orange line. So what that means is even if the price comes down and hits the blue line, you're going to want to see a wick go no further than the orange line. It's going to want to keep moving up from here and then putting in higher highs and starting a run up back to the 200 area. This is a true breakout to this type of consolidation pattern. So until we see something like that, until we see more like concrete upwards movement, you still have to be careful because you might have better opportunities to buy if it does come back and test the top of this triangle, because that's a very common thing in breakouts of big consolidations like this. When you have your first major breakout out of it, seeing the price come all the way back down and bounce off the triangle and then start the run up is very common. That happens a lot because during the first breakout, you have a lot of people that have been stuck in this consolidation pattern that have been waiting to sell. And those people now, as the price starts going up, when they start thinking it's going to drop, they all sell, the price goes down, And that's when the fundamentals kick in again. It hits that area somewhere generally in this vicinity of the triangle, and then it breaks out of it. So seeing that happen would not shock me, so I would be careful of that, and I would keep watching for that. It would play out within the next 2 days if that was to occur. If it doesn't occur, great. That's awesome. If it does occur, then you may get a chance to buy again at around 140 or possibly even 135. I don't really see it going much further than that, because once it drops below 135, it'll even be going below this red line. And every time it's gone below this 200 exponential moving average, it has come back pretty quick. So you're not going to get much time there. You can see that throughout this entire consolidation, we went below the red line only a handful of times, and it was always a slow drop. We were not below it very long. 3 or 4 times we went below that area, and it didn't stay there for long. Chart is looking primed for upwards movement. That's what it's looking like. So we're going to keep this prediction on here. We will see if it plays out. And just overall, it's looking great. I mean, EGLD is really like one of these hidden assets, I think it's more for the people who understand it, because it is still a gamble. A lot of people have a lot of confidence in EGLD. I do myself too. But the fact of the matter is you're relying on a team of people, and that just brings inherent risk. It just does. It always has that inherent risk. So no matter how much you believe in it, you can believe in it 100%. Even I am kind of there with EGLD. I believe in it quite a lot, to the point where, I bought it very low and I haven't sold anything because I still think it's so undervalued. But even though that's the case, I still do my risk management. You have to do that. So make sure you do that. And we're going to come back to this. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with EGLD. And who knows, maybe I'll put in a buy order at 140. I might have to do that. So that's pretty much it for EGLD. We will take a look again in probably a couple days, since this move could play out pretty quickly. We'll take a look on Sunday. We'll do another TA video then, and we'll see what's happening with it, and what we're going to be looking for into next week. All right, let's go ahead and move on with Cardano, and then we're going to wrap up for the day. The video's already getting pretty long. Okay, so with Cardano, we are still in the consolidation pattern. We have not broken out of it yet, and that makes sense. I mean, pretty much Cardano has seen such massive movement, it can't really shock anyone at this point that it has not had a solid break. So what I'm going to do is make sure that these trend lines are at levels that make sense. And they do. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, and we're going to save this, and we're going to zoom in. Now when we zoom in here, you'll see that this is actually looking quite good from a consolidation perspective. You are seeing the same type of triangle being put in. The only thing that worries me with Cardano still, with ADA, is that we have this top here, we have this top here, and you do not want to see a third rejection. You don't want to come up to $1.50 and break down again, because then you could have a lot of momentum loss and the price could drop a lot further. So with the ADA, I would expect to see it continue sideways very slightly and have a breakout. And the reason I think it's going to break upwards is because there's just a lot going on with the Cardano Foundation, the Cardano network. They have a good team of developers. There's nothing coming out of there that's making me bullish there either. And I know there's some things going on with NFTs there too. I haven't really dove into that yet, but I'm going to have to read about it. And honestly, the metrics look really good. The RSI is looking good. The volume has still tapered. It's not come back in this consolidation area yet. So since the time that it was there, it's not come back. It's starting to get to a point now where I'd expect to move within the week, I would say, because the one thing that I do notice here is that putting in more volume in this area would be ideal. I mean, that's the only thing. The volume profile is really high at this level, which makes sense because a majority of the trading was in that range, right? So it makes sense that you see that, but what I'd really like to see is this volume profile on the right-hand side become more solid. If you look at the volume profile here, this is still quite low. So seeing the price drop from here back to around $1.14, not surprising. That wouldn't shock anybody. But if this volume profile becomes like this, then it would actually look more like that. If it became like that, then you would have a much lower chance of dropping past this $1.20 level. So it's still flirting with that, and we need to see what happens. As far as moving averages go, all the moving averages are looking good. There's no real patterns other than this, this double top type pattern here that show any sign of concern. Aside from that, chart-wise, it's looking good, and there's just not much more data other than that on the chart. It's been a very flat consolidation. The price has stayed very, very neutral between $1.10 and $1.25. It's a pretty small range that it's been trading in, which is really good. It needed that, because if you look at this volume profile as a whole, there is not a ton of volume sitting under $1. Below $1, this whole area does not have a lot of volume. So seeing this area up here build out a lot is going to be key. It's really, really good to get above that area so you don't fall below it, because if you fall below this area and drop, then there is a chance of going all the way back down to 40 cents. It's unlikely to happen during a bull run, and especially with Cardano being a top 10 crypto asset and a pretty big contender for DeFi functionality and use. It's just unlikely, as the entire DeFi space is booming, that this is going to happen. So keep it in mind, I'm fairly bullish on it, but I am also looking for more consolidation with it and possibly sideways trading. If a breakout does occur, and that breakout occurs anywhere within the next week, then what I'd really like to see is for the price to break past $1.50. I want to see it go above these two tops. I want to see a higher high. I don't want to see a lower high come into like $1.40. So I don't want to see something like this. That's not really good. That's going to make a lot of people nervous. So keep an eye on it. That's pretty much what's up with Cardano. I'll probably do a little bit more reading on some of the latest things happening with Cardano before the next video, because I haven't been covering much news about it. I've just been doing the chart analysis, and I'm feeling like I need some news to understand better why this is staying as stable as it is, because it is surprisingly stable. I mean, for Cardano to go from 30 cents, 35 cents, all the way up to $1.19 and have this kind of stability is pretty shocking. And that could also be partly because of its listing on Coinbase. It could have gained a lot of investors there that don't want to sell, that weren't buying it on other exchanges. So that could be part of it. And, I want to know, is there anything functionality-wise with the blockchain and what they're building that I'm unaware? So if I find anything, I'll let you know on Sunday. That's pretty much it. I appreciate you joining. I know this was a little long. Hopefully that made up for not giving you a video earlier. So I hope you got a lot of information. I hope you found it useful. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, give me your comments. I will see you Sunday. Have a wonderful weekend. Peace.